Viewer discretion is advised. The following content may contain material that some viewers find disturbing or offensive. While we strive to create content that is informative and engaging, the topics discussed today touch upon sensitive subjects. We believe in open discussion and exploring complex themes, but we also understand that certain content can be challenging for some individuals. Your well-being is our priority. If at any point you feel uncomfortable, please feel free to click away. We encourage you to proceed with caution and take care of yourself. For those who choose to continue, thank you for joining us in this important conversation. We appreciate your viewership and encourage you to follow our channel for more thought-provoking content.
Heavenly Father, we humbly come before you today, united in prayer for our nation and its leadership. We lift President Donald J. Trump before you, Lord. We thank you for protecting him and revealing the truth amidst deception. We are grateful for the plans against him that have failed and for the attempts on his life that did not succeed. We ask for your continued protection over him, shielding him from future plots and exposing those who may seek to harm or mislead him. We acknowledge the good he has accomplished, yet we recognize his humanity and imperfections, just as we are imperfect. Lord, we pray for President Trump to live a life of repentance and humility before you. We know he comes from a lineage marked by revival, and we ask for a powerful encounter with your presence that will transform his life forever. Fill him with your Holy Spirit, change his heart, and guide him to seek you fully. Father, speak to him in dreams and visions through godly counsel and in his moments of prayer. Make your plans known to him, for it is your counsel that will stand forever. Let your kingdom come, and let your will be done in America as it is in heaven. We place our trust in you, knowing that your plans are greater than our own. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you for joining me in this prayer. Remember, there is power in united prayer, and together we can make a difference. If this prayer touched your heart, please share it with others. Until next time, stay blessed and keep praying.
Trump just came out and started speaking right now. Let's go to him.
Anniversary, January 20th, and it's been an amazing period of time. We have a book that I'm not going to read to you, but these are the accomplishments of what we've produced. All page after page after page, individual things. I could stand here and read it for a week and we wouldn't be finished. But we've done more than any other administration has done by far in terms of military, in terms of ending wars, in terms of completing wars. Nobody's really seen very much like it. I think it's appropriate that because Minnesota is so much in the fray, and I say to my people all the time, and they're so busy doing other things, they don't say it like they should. They're apprehending murderers and drug dealers and a lot of bad people, and these are just some of the more recent ones that we have, and I can show you some of the people, vicious, many of them murderers. These are all out of Minnesota, just Minnesota. I say, why don't you talk about that more? Because people don't know. Do you want to live with these people? International murder. These are people that are living, they're apprehended and either put in jails in their country from where they came, and the countries respect us, and so they actually put them there. In the old days, they didn't respect our country. Biden wouldn't do this because he let them all in. You know, if you didn't have open border policies of Biden, none of this, all of the things that all of the time that we spend talking about Minnesota and everything else, most of them are coming from out of the country. And it's been caused by a previous administration. Look at this, one after one. Boy, these are rough characters. These are all criminal, illegal aliens that, in many cases, they're murderers, they're drug lords, drug dealers. They're the mentally insane. There's some of them who are brutal killers, they're mentally insane. They're killers, but they're insane. These are just in Minnesota. In California, it's worse. In other states, it's worse. No, Minnesota, the crime is incredible. The financial crimes are incredible. And the problem is because of the agitators and insurrectionists, whatever you want, troublemakers, but they're paid agitators and insurrectionists. Nobody talks about the fact that $19 billion at a minimum is missing in Minnesota, given to a large degree by Somalians. They've taken it. Somalians, can you imagine? And they don't do it. A lot of very low IQ people, they don't do it. Other people work it out, and they get them money, and they go out and buy Mercedes-Benzes, and they come from here, they have no money. They never had money. They never had a life. They never had a government. They never had a country, because there's basically no country. Somalia is not even a country. They don't have anything that resembles a country. And if it is a country, it's considered just about the worst in the world. They come here and they become rich and they don't have a job. I was told that Ilhan Omar is worth $30 million. She never had a job. She's a
That's what we
crooked
know of. It's way
congressman.
more than that.
So here is another one. And I have, oh, by the way, we just took out, these are all what ICE is doing. And it's a dangerous job. These are rough people. Weapons. This one here is very bad. I'm going through this because I think we have plenty of time. I'm going to this beautiful place in Switzerland where we'll be, I'm sure I'm very happily awaited for. In Switzerland, they don't know about this. They don't have this problem. They have other problems, but they don't have this problem. Look, kill somebody. Look, and these are rough people. These are not, this was all allowed into our country through open borders. These dumbest policies, you know, men and women's sports is dumb. But to me, having an open border for the world to come in, drug dealers and prisoners. Venezuela, as an example, opened their prisons into the United States. That's why one of the reasons I felt so strongly against Venezuela. Now I'm loving Venezuela. They've been working with us so well. It's been so nice. And an unbelievably nice woman also did a very incredible
thing. All right, amazing things are happening all over the world right now. National sovereignty is coming back. The globalist order is collapsing. Wow. All right, so Trump is presenting 365 wins in 365 days. He's ongoing with that, about to go to questions. Ezra Levant on the ground in Davos just did a whole bunch of confrontations, whole bunch of interviews. Bill Gates just got confronted. It's all coming up right now, but let's go back to President Trump live from the White House.
This, like all of them, we have 10,000 at least. I could have done 10,000 of them. You're lucky I only did like 100.
That's the criminals.
This isn't even the worst of the
murderers.
They have murderers. They have some people we can't use their picture for legal reasons, but they're up for murder in their own country, and we jeopardize their case. When we send them back, and we coordinate with other countries. A tremendous amount of work. All allowed in here by an open border policy of the worst president in the history of our country. A man that didn't win the election, by the way, it was a rigged election. Everybody knows that now. And by the way, numbers are coming out that show it even more plainly. We caught him. So I just want you to know that it's a terrible thing. Here's the book on accomplishments. And this is something, I'm glad my finger wasn't in that sucker. That could have done some damage, but you know what? I wouldn't have shown the pain. I would have gone back. What, did you hear that? That was nasty. But I would not have shown the pain. I would have acted like nothing happened as my finger fell off. That was a nasty, I think somebody did that. I think it was him. It was my man. How were you? You didn't do it. I know you did. I know you didn't. So, but here's the book. These are all things we have. I'm going to read a few of the samples, but look at this. These are all, each line is something that we did. Nobody did that before. And it's big stuff, too. Look, we have the hottest country in the world. So, I will read you a few. We ended Biden's stagflation. We were in stagflation. That's a disaster. That's far worse than inflation. As you know, he had the biggest inflation in the history of our country. They say 48 years. Pick your choice. But they had the biggest inflation in the history of our country. We have it right down to a normal number now. We're going to get it even a little bit lower. Created super high. What we've done with growth is incredible. We created super high economic growth, and America is booming. It's booming. There are thousands of businesses right now that are being built. Many of the biggest factories in the world are being built right in our country. They're not going to other countries. They're leaving other countries. Fourth quarter GDP is on track to pass perhaps much more than 5% growth, and that's despite the fact that we had a Democrat shutdown. They shut down our country. and we had 5%. Nobody's in this room has ever heard about 5%. I think it could be 20% if we do it right. If we don't, every time we have good numbers, they raise interest rates. You shouldn't do it. In the old days, if you had good numbers, they'd lower interest rates, or they wouldn't do anything. Here, they try and kill it. They always try and kill success. Over the last 20, 25 years, that's the way.
We're going to monitor this historic announcement by the president, 365 wins in 365 days. We'll add it all to X as soon as it's done, but we're live right now. Ezra Levant, incredible journalist, the founder and head of Rebel.
On the one-year mark of his second inauguration, President Trump took over the White House press briefing. He talked. A lot. More than an hour before Q&A, nearly 2 hours total by some counts. He walked in holding a packet titled 365 Wins in 365 Days. 1 win per day, rapid fire. So let's break it down. Wins by the numbers. Immigration. He claimed negative net migration for the first time in 50 years, calling it a hard pivot from record illegal crossings. Border security. Designations against cartels and gangs. More arrests. More removals. Framed as America First. Full throttle. Crime. The largest homicide drop on record. Economy. Trillions in reshored investment. Manufacturing back home. Low inflation. Rising wages. And tax relief. He said companies are building again. And the military's rebuilding too. Stronger. Better funded. Ready to win. Energy. Record production and dominance. More drilling. More pipelines. More exports. Energy independence as a strategic edge. Regulation. Massive cuts to bureaucracy. Fewer rules. Faster permits. More building. Less red tape. More go time. Foreign policy. He put peace deals front and center. Ending conflicts. Brokering ceasefires. Claiming momentum from the Middle East to South Asia. And yes, the list went micro at times. Everything from tariff moves to pulling perks like a Secret Service detail from Hunter Biden, because the message was, nothing is off limits if it fits the promise. Now, the reaction. Some outlets called it historic. Presidents don't usually crash briefings and run a marathon. Others called it rambling, meandering, grievance-filled. He even joked he doesn't love pressers, but he's got to get the word out because fake news won't. The big friction? The peace claims. Experts argued many were ceasefires, not ironclad peace, meaning they can flare up fast. On India and Pakistan, New Delhi publicly denied any third-party role, even as the White House list credited a U.S.-brokered breakthrough. That spat spilled into trade, with steep U.S. tariffs on imports from India following the dispute.
So I'm going to write a memo to the president on what he needs to do. But you don't need to wait for that. You can write these points down, maybe add a few you think are important.
That I will faithfully
Flood Truth Social with it. Call the White House with it. You know, a lot of nights he sits there and just answers the phone randomly.
to the best of my ability
And will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
It's been 1 year since President Trump was sworn in for the second time. Right around this time exactly. 365 days ago to basically the minute. In fact, it was about 11:34 or 5 Central, a little past noon Eastern. Let's go back to this historic footage. Trump gets a F- on the Justice Department indicting and prosecuting the deep state. He gets an A+ on the border. He gets an A+ on economy, as fast as he can, getting jobs and investment here. He gets an A+ on rehabilitating us in the culture wars, trying to get the public to not have our will broken and to not be demoralized. He gets a plus on banning men and women's sports. The list goes on. And shattering the control of the Democrat Party has had over so much of society by going in with Doge and just massively finding trillions in fraud and cutting it off. And it goes on, the great things he's done. I mean, there's new stuff every day. Capping credit card interest at 10%. Going in and signing an order capping residential electric bills by forcing tech giants to pay for soaring costs but from their data centers. Energy prices almost cut in half, 45% in just 1 year. On and on and on and on. FDA removes web content saying cell phones are harmless. HHS study set to be released soon, actually showing what different types of cell towers do, 5G, you name it, and the fact that it is linked directly to cancer, which they always knew. But that's the changes going on. Fluoride, deadly for the brain, lowers IQ, causes infertility. Cancer, being pulled out of the states because of federal recommendations. All mRNA vaccine funding by the government killed. Vaccine preparedness, vaccine liability protection funding for all the major vaccines pulled. All mercury in vaccines outlawed. All of the poison dyes outlawed. What was that, 5-6 months ago? They gave them a year to get it done, and they're already pulling it out everywhere? Yeah, just on Kennedy alone and what he's doing, incredible. Gabbard releasing all the different classified documents on Crossfire Hurricane, Arctic Frost, all of it. She's done an A+. But where are the prosecutions of Antifa? Yeah, a few of them that burn up Teslas or shoot people. Yeah, they've been arrested and charged and convicted. And yeah, they've convicted over 100 Somalis in the last year for the fraud. That's not something new we just discovered. The Republicans in Congress in the 1990s exposing it, but it's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And yeah, they've opened a criminal investigation into Ilhan Omar. She's definitely one of the main people involved. She went from having no money to over 30 million. And believe me, that's just what she admits she has. Yeah, that's all great, but I want to see indictments and I want to see convictions. Now, that said, we can't paradoxically throw Trump out and just say we're not defending him, we don't support him, because on so many fronts, we're gaining so much ground on the enemy. But on removing the deep state, on prosecuting them, it's an F-. On taking the security clearances and cutting their money off, B+. So I'm not going to ever apologize for supporting Trump. But I want to say something here really important before I get to the news. We built this audience of patriots. We built, if you study it, even the globalists have major university courses on it, at Harvard, at UT. You can pull these up. We've covered them. And they've been saying this for 10 years. It's accurate that Ron Paul and his movement basically took over the Tea Party intellectually in the last 20 years. And in their studies, in the demographic numbers, they said InfoWars was the main pollinator of that. So that's our audience of activists. I don't get the credit. It's all of you. But InfoWars and Ron Paul were the only big institutions, organizations getting the word out through the great network of people like you, us together. And so that built the runway or the launch pad for Trump to swoop in 2016. And then much of our operating system, much of our political beliefs got adopted, at least by the speechwriters. Steve Bannon, Stephen Miller, the different doctors, different researchers, different scientists that are there, Dr. Beatty. And a lot of that got into policy in the first four, but not as much as now. They're not just paying lip service to the Patriot movement. I mean, we're the dominant vein of culture in the White House now. And so Trump has a decent grasp of history, but a lot of blank spots. People I know that know him well, and I've talked to him. But what he did do is when he was in military academy, they taught about it. And so they had assignments for the years he was there, and he was like the basically made the leader because he was top of his class and all the rest of it. And so they had to write essays and papers and read all these books about Americana and American policy and William McKinley and Teddy Roosevelt and George Washington and Andrew Jackson. And so, and I've had Trump's classmates on about this. Trump was talking about it then. So he does have history on what made America great. And he does know about that. So he's literally doing what Teddy Roosevelt did, what William McKinley did, what Andrew Jackson did, because that's his, he's probably read 20 history books. I've read thousands. But it's okay, because at least he's got that. All right? Because if you're going to only read a few, he read the right ones. So he really is all about this country. I mean, it's like a baby chicken or a duck. When it cracks out of its egg, the first thing it sees, whether it's a cow or a horse or a cat or a dog, even if it's not its mother, it imprints and follows it around. And anybody that's ever had ducks or out on a farm, and I've lived on a farm and they had ducks, and you see them, and when they hatch out and they're there and they get up and they see you, you better watch out. And then when you go in the house, they'll try to wait and just quack and wait till you come back out because they think you're mama. And so Trump imprinted on America like a baby duck. It's not an act. And if I had to describe Trump, he's very funny, very smart, has a lot of skills, but he is definitely autistic, savant level. But he's got his blind spots. So we got Trump in. We fought like hell. We went through hell to get him in, and they tried to kill him, and all the impeachments and all the lies and all the things he survived and we survived together. And because I've been tortured and sued and demonized and surveilled for Trump and for America, you bet I don't want to just give up on him. But then I can intellectually sit back and say, are you backing Trump so hard because you invested so much time and energy in it, and now you don't want to admit you're wrong? No, that has nothing to do with it. No, I mean, I can sit there and look at him compared to the Democrats and look at all the good stuff's happening, and it's not even a discussion of course I'm backing him. And by being supportive on the good stuff, Trump and the White House know I'm a friend. And they listen. And they routinely get the guests we have on about segments that they show the president, like Mark Mitchell and others that don't want to be named, and they go up to the White House and advise them. And I've been invited to go do it too, but I don't really decline it. I say, oh yeah, here's my email. Just send that invitation, knowing if I don't follow up, it's not going to happen. And it's not that I'm scared to go to the White House and do it. There's something about me by the president, me talking to the president, that makes the deep state just go see red. And I'm not scared to fight the globalists, but I pick my battles. So I'd rather be very influential on air, very influential back channels, very influential everywhere, but I don't like to go to Mar-a-Lago. I don't like to go to the big events. I just got invited again. And I'm just like, yeah, strategically, I think I need to be under the radar here a little bit. And the bad guys are watching. They already know all this, but it's that image of me with Trump. I mean, Trump wanted to get me up there 6 months ago and, honor me and, say it and walk out in the back. Alex is great, blah, blah, or whatever, along with, some other folks, and like he did Flynn. And I just said, yeah, I got a family engagement. I can't come. Sorry, thank you. And it's not a snub. It's that I can get more done if he's bombarded with something. Roger will tell you, you got to hit him and 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 hit him, and then he clicks and then he does it. But he's got to offer the Greenlanders a percentage of any oil or gas revenue, which is totally normal and natural, like Alaskans have. It's done. And then on top of it, by the way, remember Denmark sterilized half your women, and most of those women are still alive. They're pissed. You just got almost half the population on your side just by that statement. And saying Denmark would never even let you know you should be getting some of the oil and gas money. This will be reparations for you. Not reparations 200 years later. You don't do that for somebody that wasn't the victim. No, these are the victims. So it's not reparations, it's restitution. And it's done. It's done. It's done. And then, because no one's planted the flag up there, China and others are moving in with oil exploration, saying they'll just drill wherever they want. By saying they're in charge, by saying they own it, which they do, the Inuits have to plant the flag. And then they will have rightful ownership of it. That is a no-brainer. Just, my God, please do it. Just please. And I can advise you guys on every other major subject about optics. But this is the I don't give an F Trump, which is a good thing in many ways, because he doesn't care how the globalists threaten him. He doesn't care. He's to do what he thinks is right. The problem is, though, people that kiss his ass and people that are nice to him and people that lie to him, he has a blind spot for Todd Blanche and Pam Bondi and the rest of them. And it is going to be the death of us. I mean, it is terrible. Absolutely terrible. And we've now learned that Susie Wiles has opposition research being done by the RNC and others on General Flynn and others. You can probably imagine who. And I already knew about this, but Flynn got the documents. All because they are worried about MAGA in the future once Trump leaves, and they're worried about who is seen as the heirs to MAGA. Not that we want to run for president, not that we want to be in charge, but they know people are going to listen to us. And so that's a very dangerous position. So I've got the Democrats want to destroy me because I'm influential, and they know I'll stand up for whatever's right for the country and freedom, no matter who's in office. And then we've got the Republicans with their knives out as well, who I've already had, and they're private meetings, and they're off record, and so I don't violate confidences. It's not criminal. If it's not criminal, I won't violate a confidence. I mean, I'll talk about in general what happened, but before the Democrats even sued me, it was the Republicans came to me. Not Trump people, but the top Republicans. And they said, look, richest guy in the world, not Musk at the time. We want to finance you. If you don't do this, the Democrats are coming for you. They got all the lawsuits ready. And I just said, I can't do that. And then they told me about a month later was another meeting. And they said, why don't you just come talk to these guys? And I go in there and they go, this is off record, right? I go, okay. And then there's these top Democrat lawyers. You see them on TV. And I'm just like, what is this, guys? They're like, Alex, we love you, man. Come on. Don't be stupid. Make it work with us. We like you. Come on. The Republican lawyers are like, and you have to understand, like, these lawyers, I mean, like their wives are the heads of federal agencies and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, these are like the lawyers. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, guys, I told you I just can't do this. I go, we really feel sorry for you then, man. And boy, it just, within a week, opened up on all the TV channels demonizing me, all these lies, news articles every day, everywhere. You saw it on every TV channel, everything. They had somehow, with their algorithms, they even had AI then, tracked what was going to happen with the show, where it was building to, what was happening, if I was allowed to continue to communicate with Trump and get him on board with this. But the great news is they stole the election. It woke everybody up even more. Now Trump's even more hardcore. And so it didn't work out the way they wanted. And that line of future concern they had with me was already a done deal, fait complete. Because we'd already done the work waking up the grassroots, exposing the globalist system. We'd already discredited, not just here, but around the world. Not just myself, my guests, the crew, our audience, the films, many other people. We'd done that. And so they weren't going to be able to even kill me or put me in prison. Or just demonize me. Oh, we demonize the guy that's the Patriot leader. That will somehow demonize the movement. People are more sophisticated than that. And so with the absurd demonization in the last 9 years, the public went, we don't trust you. We don't believe corporate media. We know you're attacking him. He must be good. And that actually made more people than ever tune in and actually made us even stronger. Because I didn't buy their narrative that I was going to be destroyed, that I was just going to go away, and that it was all over. So I'm very thankful to listeners and viewers and our affiliates and our sponsors and everybody that kept us on air, because we've really woken up a lot of people together. We've changed the world. You can be pessimistic about things not moving quick enough, but compared to how fast we were moving against the globalist 20 years ago, we're at light speed right now. And it's only picking up speed. So we really should sit back and understand where we are. But yeah, Republicans blast immoral Trump actions after issuing impeachment warning. And that's with him in the Greenland statements, which are completely tongue-in-cheek. Oh, I guess since you don't like peace, I guess I'll just do what's right for America and take this. And that's just Trump jerking the chain and stirring things up. But let me just complete the statement here, very simply. I am heavily invested in Trump. He's something we built, though imperfect, much better than the alternative. And you can sit back as a purist and say, no, we need things to get worse faster, and we need to just be absolute purist, and we need to just not support any of these politicians or any of these groups. And I can understand that thinking, and it's simple. You don't have to do much research, makes you feel good. But, I mean, killing global carbon taxes, killing the Davos Initiative, the Club of Rome project, the Paris Accords, that was just a death sentence for billions, neo-feudalism, total dragon control. Incredible thing Trump did. He just pulled us out of 66 UN agencies, effectively leaving the UN last week. I mean, I can go on forever here. So, this is our big success. Trump is our battering ram, smashing the enemy as flat as a pancake. Now, we could try to redirect the battering ram and get it to do a better job, but it's still our battering ram. We summoned this creature. And you wanted somebody to stand up and to go after our enemies. You got it, folks. Does that mean it's 79 and the rest of it he's going to be perfect? No, none of us are. Although they were talking to a black congressman who went to West Point, and they were attacking him on CNN. They're like, why, at West Point, they've got a Robert E. Lee building. And he goes, yeah, I've actually stayed there when I was, that's where I live when I was there. And he goes, I realized, that if we took the names of everybody that wasn't perfect off buildings, the only name we'd have on buildings is Jesus Christ. By the way, they teach them about Robert E. Lee at West Point. So they all know about Robert E. Lee, and they all know what they were told about him and true. And they just admire him. Just like they admired the Northern folks. I mean, it was a terrible thing that happened. But the point is that I don't think I am positive enough about how far we've moved the needle and how great Trump is. And by great at dismantling the globalist. I mean, their system is in tatters. They admit it. And their system is scientifically designed to be evil, scientifically designed to enslave humanity. They're the ones that want to cut your son's genitals off. They're the ones that release illegal aliens that have committed murders and robberies, and then they do it again, and they release them again. They know what they're doing. Memos just came out in Congress of the fraud investigators years ago in Minnesota, when it was already billions 4 years ago. And they said, yeah, none of these companies are open. None of these places have kids. None of these places have physicians. None of them have patients. But the governor's office has told us that we'll be called racist if we stop this. So we're going to close all investigations. And they put it in emails. The heads of these anti-fraud investigations, heads of agencies, said, okay, well, we've got the order from the governor and from the AG because we don't want to be called racist. That's why they set the Somalis up with the fraud. It's why they funded them. If I hear one more person say that the Minnesota government was incompetent and allowed this to happen, I'm going to go crazy. Incompetent? This was done with precision from the top down. And that's why in the cases of the Somalis that have gone to jail, they find out, only 30-40% was in their pocket. And that's the deal they cut. They send the majority to the Democrats above them, not as campaign contributions, but other ways, And then they send the next big group money to Somalia. That's their tribe. And then they keep part of it. And then individuals are making like $8 million a year. They got, big mansion and Ferraris and, Maybach, Mercedes, and they're buying land all over the world and they're got yachts. Yeah, but that's just on a couple million they're getting a piece. If they're keeping $2 million, they're pushing $6 million out the door. You just think they're incompetent, let them do that? No, they're running that. And they're running it in other groups all over the country. And that's how they can try to buy everybody off. Because the Democrat Party is a bunch of criminal pirates. And the Somalis, they found a very good kindred spirit.
They tried assassination, lawfare and lies, but we delivered the Red Tsunami anyway. In the crucible of one of the most brutal political battles in American history, the Make America Great Again movement rose with unyielding determination to propel Donald J. Trump back into the Oval Office in November 2024. Millions of patriots, farmers, truckers, veterans, mothers, fathers, and everyday Americans from every corner of this great nation fought relentlessly. We knocked on doors in blistering heat and freezing cold, flooded social media with the truth, packed arenas at rallies that shook the establishment to its core. President Trump faced horrors no candidate should ever endure. He survived 2 confirmed assassination attempts during the 2024 campaign. The shocking July 13th shooting at his rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, where a bullet grazed his ear, and the September 15th incident at his West Palm Beach golf course. These were desperate strikes by forces terrified of his return. Layered on top came the relentless lawfare, 4 sham indictments across state and federal courts, weaponized by partisan prosecutors in a coordinated effort to destroy him. They called it justice. We called it what it was, election interference. Yet through every bullet, every courtroom ambush, and every smear, President Trump stood tall like a lion. And we, the American people, the forgotten men and women he champions, prevailed. On the 5th of November 2024, the Red Tsunami swept across the nation, delivering a mandate to save our republic. Mr. President, this is your reminder on this historic 1-year anniversary. We didn't just vote for you, we bled, we sacrificed, we fought tooth and nail because we believed in you and in the America you promised to restore. The fight isn't over, but the victory is real. Stay strong, keep fighting, and know that millions stand with you, ready to make America great again, stronger than ever. God bless you, President Trump. God bless the patriots who made this possible. And God bless the United States of America.
What I wish I knew at the UN. If an organization doesn't serve America, it can be cut loose, fast. President Trump signed a memorandum, ordering all agencies to stop participating and funding 66 groups, 35 non-UN bodies, 31 UN entities. Officials say these organizations were redundant. They were mismanaged, or pushing policies that clash with U.S. sovereignty and economic interests, climate programs, gender programs, migration projects, democracy projects. Secretary Rubio called them a threat to our freedoms and prosperity. The White House framed this as reclaiming taxpayer dollars for American priorities. Critics warn this damages the rules-based order and weakens global cooperation. Amnesty International called it reckless. UN officials warned it could leave the U.S. less secure. Whether you cheer it or fear it, this move reshapes U.S. diplomacy overnight and raises big questions about how America will engage the world next. Stay tuned. This story is just getting started.
Now, I want people to understand me very, 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 very closely. I started saying 16 years ago, when it was clear that China had totally broken with the globalist order, that if China didn't follow its agreements and broke with them and had its own competing tyranny, that's what China does, it just copies things and then runs off with it, that the globalist system that already is super evil and super unpopular, it couldn't survive exposure. So because of independent media exposing it, it was going to have big problems. And then when China left it, that it was never going to succeed. And I was right. And then, as you know, even before Trump got back in the last 2 years, I explained all this. I explained the factions, how they work, how they operate. No one else is doing it. We finally, though, have a White House that the most of them get this. And Trump more and more is explaining it. So Americans understand why this is going on, why this is happening. But you have China now in the new alliance. That's the new world order that Carney, we played the clips over the weekend. He's the former head of the Bank of England. They took out a puppet, put a real globalist in Canada. He said the new world order is Canada, New Zealand, Australia, the EU, the UK, with China against America. Russia isn't even mentioned in it because Russia's its own thing. Driven into China's arms by the Ukraine war. Violating all U.S. policy previously to keep a Russia-China split. So, how many times did I tell you the EU is allied with the Chicoms? No one was saying that. Now it's official. That is the new power blocks. It's not even BRICS. BRICS is China and Russia and Brazil and others trying to set up a new monetary system. And down the road, if the U.S. doesn't maintain dollar dominance and a lot of other issues and financially doesn't have the best investment portfolio, which we do again because of Trump, it'd be over for this country because we haven't industrialized again. And all we have is basically the dollar and high-tech weapons and energy. So Trump is working with what he's got. And so when you hear my broadcast, this isn't some conspiracy theory where I got some random witness with no proof they saw this or that. This isn't conspiracy theories. This is the real world, folks. And I remember even 12, 13, 14 years ago, I'd be covering Bilderberg in England or Bilderberg in Switzerland or Bilderberg in Istanbul or Bilderberg in Virginia. And they'd have troops and helicopters and everything. And I'd go cover it, and the New York Times would say, Jones is insane. He's on YouTube out in the woods claiming that we're all the leader meeting in Chantilly, Virginia, and he's insane. Didn't matter I showed it all. Didn't matter I stayed in the building after it was closed. Didn't matter they threw me out. Didn't matter we called into his room and got David Rockefeller on the phone. They just said it isn't real. Now, where are we 10, 13, 14, 15 years later? Now the world government's all out in the open. And their whole agenda to depopulate us is all out in the open now. So last year in Davos, it was, we've all lost trust. Everybody hates us. What do we do? This year, it's our New World Order's dead. Our global system is over. And we've all got to run to China. So let's play Lutnick. This just came out. This is today. The Trump administration and I are here to make a very clear point. Globalism has failed. Yeah, even if you're for it, as I've always said, it failed. It's over. Why are you going to do solar and wind? Why would Europe agree to become the zero when you don't make a battery? Yeah, they're committing suicide. Germany can't even build stuff now. There's no energy. Most of the families can't even turn heat on at night. You're entitled to have borders. Globalism has left the American people behind. America first, different model, one that we encourage other countries to adopt. This is real prosperity for the world. This is, hey, Wall Street's had its time. Now it's time to rebalance for Main Street. and the farmers. These are quotes by Ludnick and by Bassin, and they're actually doing it. Like, they're going to be rich and powerful and have all these zeros in the bank account, ones and zeros, but nowhere to spend it, and a hellscape society of austerity. And then Carney responds to this. So we have that clip coming up. But I mean, this is amazing. To their face, you're done. And they admit they're done. Folks, that's the new world order. That's the globalist system being repudiated and rejected. And Trump's coming in saying, hey, I don't just have us increasing energy prices. Decreasing energy prices that lowers inflation. He's convinced Saudi Arabia to massively increase everybody else. And he wants Venezuela to sell to the world. Because he understands that all these countries are in debt. All these countries are overextended. It's not just us. There's a race to print our way out. And the U.S. is bad, but nothing compared to China and Europe for their monetization of debt. And so Trump looks at that and says, we got to innovate. We've got to have new technologies. We've got to cut energy prices. We've got to get people back into wanting to work and back having good attitudes, or this world is going to melt down into a great reset post-industrial world. And Schwab and the globalists go, well, yeah, and then we'll starve people to death. And Trump's like, you think you're going to cut the food off incrementally and say it's for a virus and keep people locked in their houses while they die and that they're not going to get mad and come after everybody? You think you can manage this austerity? Well, they can't because we expose them. They might have been able to pull it off, maybe 10% chance, if we didn't oppose them. But we've demonized them. We've exposed them. We've exposed what they did. And that's why Zuckerberg and all the rest of them said, okay, let's not do austerity. And they've all run back to Trump and at least on the surface are playing ball. Because you can academically sit back and talk about making the world so poor and sterilizing everybody and feeding them poison bug protein. But it's not going to work at the end of the day because the globalists are not going to be insulated from it. They're going to pay. So we're actually fighting the elite. We're actually fighting the establishment. We're fighting the eugenics-based transhumanist death cult. And this is the big issue. This is the big enchilada. And so Trump taking back the Panama Canal that never should have been given away. Trump moving in so China has control Venezuela, cutting off Cuba. Trump saying, hey, I want Greenland. It's not a joke. The way he's going about it is to make Europe mad, to have a split over that with Europe, so Trump has an excuse to pull out of NATO. Instead of saying it's about Russia. That's his thinking there, and it's second-order thinking. You got a third, fourth-order thing, and say, they're going to rally, and they're going to say, no, you're not going to take our country from us. So you point out that Denmark never really gave you freedom, never offered you a percentage of the oil and gas. As natural-born people in the country, you will have autonomy, your own sovereign nation. You'll be a protectorate of the United States. You will call the shots in general, but we get military hegemony over the area and exclusivity, and then you get a large slice of the oil and gas. You'll all be instant multimillionaires today. It's done. And then you add, oh, by the way, Denmark sterilized forcibly half your women in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, which is not debated. They admit it. But now you have the Greenland PM tells people to prepare for possible invasion. Trump, do not invade. This is not Venezuela. They've not been messing with our elections. They're not running with drug cartels. You are giving the Republicans who want to turn against you the perfect shot. And they're trying to hype that up. I'm not saying Trump's even thinking about it. Though the military's drawing up plans, they do that for every contingency. That is not a good move. And then Trump puts out, as a joke on Truth Social, an image of North America all the way up to Greenland, to Alaska, down to southern North America, CONUS, as the new map. Now, the EU did it through trade deals and got the countries to slowly sign over their authority to an unelected commission. The EU's a dictatorship. At least Trump's open and honest about it. But you notice Venezuela's on there too. So, and Trump's argument is if it ain't going to be us, it'll be the Chinese. So Trump is an extreme realist, but he's got to be more nuanced about it, and that's my opinion. All right, let's go to Carney, and then another amazing statement by, well, first let's go to Ludnick, then to Carney at Davos right now. Your New World Order's dead, and this is how Carney responded.
Okay. We are in Davos at the World Economic Forum. And the Trump administration and myself, we are here to make a very clear point. Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America. It's a failed policy. It is what the WEF has stood for, which is export, offshore, far shore, find the cheapest labor in the world, and the world is a better place for it. The fact is, it has left America behind. It has left the American workers behind. And what we are here to say is that America First is a different model, one that we encourage other countries to consider, which is that our workers come first. We can have policies that impact our workers. Sovereignty is your borders. You're entitled to have borders. You shouldn't offshore your medicine. You shouldn't offshore your semiconductors. You shouldn't offshore your entire industrial base and have it be hollowed out beneath you. You should not be dependent for that which is fundamental to your sovereignty on any other nation. And if you're going to be dependent on someone, it darn well better be your best allies. Okay? And so that is a different way of thinking. It is completely different than the WEF. I viewed the WEF as not a flagpole in the middle, but in fact, they are the flag. Whichever way the wind blew, so it blew. You should have solar, you should have wind. Why are you going to do solar and wind? Why would Europe agree to be net zero in 2030 when they don't make a battery? They don't make a battery. So if they go 2030, they are deciding to be subservient to China, who makes the batteries.
We understand that this rupture calls for more than adaptation. It calls for honesty about the world as it is. We are taking the sign out of the window. We know the old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy. But we believe that from the fracture, we can build something bigger, better, stronger, more just. This is the task of the middle powers. The countries that have the most to lose from a world of fortresses and a most to gain from genuine cooperation. The powerful have their power. But we have something too. The capacity to stop pretending, to name reality, to build our strength at home, and to act together. That is Canada's path. We choose it openly and confidently, and it is a path wide open to any country willing to take it with us. Thank you very much.
Except when you look at what the former Bank of England head is doing, he's even on TV a couple years ago saying, I'm not Canadian, I'm not British, I'm a European, a globalist. You have an unelected EU commission that runs it out of trade deals that they got the nation states to incrementally sign away their authority since the Treaty of Rome, 56, look it up, lecturing us about tyranny. And you've got Carney with his policies, just like Europe, of cutting off the energy, bringing in massive numbers of foreigners, giving them all the freebies, subsidizing everything, banning free speech, setting up all this corruption. And their Build Back Better, Great Reset plan is austerity, is to make the general public poor. And he sits there and talks about equality and helping people and empowerment. It's the opposite. Trump and his policies down the line are absolutely what blue-collar people should beg for. Booming economies, high pay, innovation, and it's what the middle class should beg for. And it's what the ultra-elite should beg for, the stability of a stable, growing planet. Instead of being control freaks, where you have Larry Fink, the head of the World Economic Forum, saying, oh yeah, we've got 88% of world assets under our control, so that we can control people's behavior. This is all about controlling the world and how people think and what they do. And then, how do you want us to think? The family's bad. Sterilize your sons and daughters. Open borders, pedophilia. Larry Fink says the most successful countries are not having humans and are replacing humans with robots. We are investing in countries that have plummeting populations. That is the future. You want to see the clips? There's 3 of them last year. You want to see the clip of Kerry, the climate envoy, saying, we must cut farm production by half or people will starve. That's a quote. We must cut farming production by half or people will starve. That's like saying, I must slit my wrist or I might bleed to death. I must shove this 12-gauge shotgun in my mouth and pull the trigger or I might have a gunshot wound to the head. I have to pour a gallon of gasoline on myself and light it or I might burn up. They are literally looking at us and Germany, their Mercedes-Benz and Volkswagen plants, look this up, can only operate a couple days out of the week. They don't have enough power to make cars. And they sat back and let NATO blow up half their gas, the Nord Stream pipeline. I read articles every day where 85-year-old woman who had no heat for months found frozen to death in Berlin. Meanwhile, migrants get the equivalent of $5,000 a month to sit around in their nightgowns and bitch at us. I mean, they run TV shows for kids on German TV saying, I'm 12 and I have married a Muslim man. I love him. He tells me what to do. I wear a burqa. And then out of Wales, I have 10-year-old girls in schoolgirl outfits saying, we're waiting for you, baby Muslims. We want to be your girlfriend. Come to us. We're waiting. And it's put out by the town council. And the Muslims say, I'm coming to get that. I mean, Scotland runs ads with little girls saying, Muslims, I'm waiting for you. Come here. And I mean, it's like putting a worm on a hook for the Muslims to come, but it's little girls. By the way, every time I mention that, people don't believe me and I play the clips. I mean, you cannot. I mean, this is the most sick, twisted, bizarre, sadomasochistic weirdness. I mean, look, it's one thing. It's not my cup of tea, watching 10 dudes run a train on your wife. But some guys get off on it and they like it, okay? But the left wants to run a train of drugs and brainwashing and surgeries and chemicals on our kids. It's worse than raping them. And if you study the left, it's pure Satanism. I mean, think of how far we've slipped. Think of what we put up with. But hey, if you're a grown adult and you and your wife are into that, that's your business. Who am I to tell you not to do it? But you're not doing it with our kids. And they've been doing it. And they're running a train on all of us with these arrogant Somalis and all the stuff they're stealing and the arrogant Democrats and just all their Don Lemon and screaming at people in a church and calling them Nazis. And just these are a bunch of crazy bullies. But here's the deal. The world has rejected them. And they thought they'd collapse things and pose as the saviors, get even more control. That's backfiring. So this is going to be rough for all of us. And it's going to be really rough for those of us at the tip of the spear. All I've gotten is lawsuits and attacks and hell supporting Trump. And as imperfect as he has been used as an instrument of God to crush these people. And he's been protected and survived because it's in God's will. And so have I. I've only survived because of God working through you to support me. And so I am proud and satisfied and feel very good about the decisions I've made, what I've done politically, and what I've supported to great personal detriment to my own life. Because I constantly get lectured by the fake conservatives that get boosted by the algorithms and boosted by YouTube and boosted by Instagram that I'm a sellout and because I support Trump and I'm part of the establishment. No, we're the rebels trying to get a beachhead and trying to save Western civilization and thus civilization in general. Could the ship be better we're on? Yeah, it's the ship we got. And I'm trying to keep it from sinking. And people just logically think about that, you will know everything I do is about the people. Let's get fluoride out of the water. These poison shots are designed to sterilize you and kill you. Let's stop that. We're doing that. Let's secure the borders. Let's deport the illegals. They're a permanent voting bloc. They're used and signed up for welfare. The Democrats skim off the top. I'm telling you that forever. I tell you, get it to silver and gold 26 months ago, right as it began to go up. I know what I'm doing. You actually sit back and write down what I say and then look a year later, look 2 years later, and you'll say, wow, this guy knows what he does. Yeah, this is all I do. This is all I do. And I sit there and research things and just pour over it and just, to try to get the exact right answer for you. I don't look at what's popular or stick my finger to see which way the wind's blowing. I don't lick my finger and stick it in the air. I do what I know is right. And I do what the Holy Spirit tells me to do. Sometimes do I go overboard? Does the flesh get involved? Sometimes do I get mad at somebody and later hear it and go, man, I went too far? Yeah. I'm the first person to apologize for that. But the reason you hear constantly that I'm not the real deal and that I'm a fake when any idiot can look and know I'm the real McCoy just like you are is because they're so scared of what I'm saying because of the public listens and of the leaders listen. It's game over for the globalists. And let me give the globalists the bad news, which they already know. I'm not just listened to by Trump and his administration. I'm listened to in every major country in the world. They listen to me in Nigeria. They listen to us in Iraq and Iran, Israel. They listen in Russia. They listen in Hungary. They listen in Poland. They listen in Japan. They listen everywhere.
Hello, everybody. You know, today is January 20th, 2026. I'm making this video today because when you watch this video, more likely it won't no longer be January 20th, 2026. But I'm making this video on January 20th, 2026, the 1-year anniversary when Trump got inaugurated into President of the United States. Now, I kind of like to give my own version of the report card, how he's doing. I've been very critical of Trump on the past because I don't like some of the stuff he is doing, but I felt like we need to hold his feet to the fire to get him on the right course correct him, you know. He had to course correct himself sometimes. Let's put it this way. Like he totally failed Bosch, the Epstein file case. He just did, okay? His DOJ is slow moving. It's fucking pathetic. Pam Bundy, you know, she's like do nothing Pam Bundy, okay? All she does is stay in Florida, and she flies to D.C. to go to those cabinet meetings. That's about it, for I understand. You know, I think Todd Blanche, I believe that guy's name is running the DOJ. She's not running DOJ. DOJ's not running shit. She released these so-called Epstein binders, which was nothing, basically. And, you know, and it took an act of Congress to get the Epstein files relieved. That's when Trump went along with. First, Trump's biggest debacle when he said the Epstein files a Democrat host. I made videos about that before, and it's not. Okay, he really screwed a pooch on that one, you know. I mean, he dropped the ball on that one big time when he did that, and lost a lot of his support, a lot of his base when he did that, when he made that move. And I don't think a lot of him's not coming back. I'm just being honest with you. That's his major F up right there, him handling the Epstein's files, where it took Congress basically, where Trump finally went along with it and called for release of the Epstein files, basically, you know, I wish they did, but it's heavily redacted. If you think about the names and the people involved in this, basically the power figures, I mean, you're sadly mistaken. I mean, they're going to squash that best they can. And I believe, in my humble opinion, no major players of the Epstein files basically is to be held accountable for their actions, okay? Which include Bill and Hillary Clinton, basically, and a lot more other people as well, but I'm not going to say names right now. But on the brighter note, I do like how Trump's handling the economy somewhat. It's still not as good as it need to be, but I think, you know, how Biden botched it up so damn bad, it's going to take a while to fix it. I think Trump, I do believe in my heart, Trump's tried really hard to fix this economy any way he can with tariffs, other moves he is making. So it's going to take a little bit. So, you know, we have to be some patience. But I know what you're saying, too, and I have to agree with this. Trump could only blame Biden for so long. Okay, so, you know, So if things don't get rolling like I hope it does, I think it sure would be due, then he can no longer blame Biden for this. All he can do right now, basically, is get it going quickly as he can, but it's going to take a little bit. But I like the moves with the tariffs and everything else he's doing, and the trade deals he's doing, stuff like that, and his foreign policy deals he's doing. And I do agree he should remove Maduro out of power, because I know Trump's act more gangster more than ever before, and I kind of like that in a lot of ways. And I do believe we need to take Greenland as well. If we're going to do it, just do it. If we're going to do it, just do it. Expand U.S. territory, make America great again. America exceptionalism, America imperialism. That's what we ought to be rooting for right there. Because I believe taking Greenland would be a great benefit for the United States. And I'm proud to see Trump, a president strong enough, to tell NATO and the UN to go pound sand. That's what I like most about it, because the past presidents, Biden, Obama, Bush, Clinton, the other past presidents, and George W. Bush Sr. and Jr. as well. I got to throw that name in there. I got to be transparent somewhat here. And Reagan in a lot of ways, too. Much I admire Reagan, but Reagan did the same thing. Is kissing the UN's ass. Trump's not kissing the UN's ass. He's telling the UN to go pound sand. He's telling NATO to go pound sand. It's about time we have a strong enough gangster leader telling these world organizations like NATO and the UN to go pound sand. Okay? And I hope Trump makes moves to get us out of NATO. Because NATO for us is a money bag. Okay, that's all it is. If we're just dumping money into NATO for what? They're not protecting us. They're protecting Europe, but they're not protecting us. So why in the hell should dump so much money into fucking NATO? Get out of NATO, basically. Let NATO do their own thing, and we just get out and stay out of it. And just tell Western Europe, which is falling anyways, they're almost like a point of no return. There already is point of no return for Western Europe. But at this point, just tell Western Europe, you just got to take care of yourself. Okay, you got to defend yourself. We can't protect. We cannot protect and defend you for now and eternity. You just got to learn how to fucking do it. And tell the UN, to go pound sand. That's the things I like best right there. Okay, I'm glad to see journalists up there. I think Davos, is it Switzerland or Sweden? I forgot where it is. But one of those countries where I have this so-called UN meeting. As world globalists at least have these meetings once a year. And they're going to question them, stuff like that. I think it's Davos in Switzerland, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he's telling these new world order leaders to go question them and question their ethics and the moralities based on what they're doing, and this dehumanizing people, depopulation as well. Trying to replace the white race. And depopulation the whole entire world, basically, with low birth rate, stuff like that. So I'm proudly trying to stand up to them. They're going to tell them to their face that your new order failed. People now go along with this, where we shouldn't, basically. And it should be fucking dissolved. That's just my opinion, and my opinion alone right there. I have to make it quick. It's kind of late right now. But I would say this, too, real quick as well. Like I said, Trump should take Greenland. Okay? And I'm going to stitch a video with this at the end of this one. It's an hour-long video about advice. This guy makes some very good points. A former Navy SEAL, and he makes some good points on why Trump should take Greenland. It's a very strategic part of the world that we should take, and it dwarfs Alaska, basically, and how we can do it. Maybe we can do it peacefully. Okay? So please check out the next video, all right? Peace out. See you later. Peace and bye-bye.
In times of historic change, bold moves become necessary. Today, the world faces crisis, upheaval, and intense competition for global influence. President Trump has proposed an idea that shocked many: purchasing Greenland. It may sound bold, but history reminds us, big risks often bring great rewards. Greenland's icy landscapes are more than barren beauty. Buried beneath are rare earth minerals, resources critical to tomorrow's technology and economic growth. Former Navy SEAL and counterterrorism expert Matt Bracken believes Greenland could be pivotal to America's future. But why now? Russia and China are forging a powerful alliance, expanding their global reach. The Arctic is their new frontier, a place of untapped power and strategic value. Greenland offers control over vital sea routes as the polar ice melts, opening shortcuts between continents and shifting the balance of naval power. Basing U.S. defense systems in Greenland would strengthen our nation's security and deter growing threats from ambitious rivals. Possessing Greenland is more than owning land. It's about safeguarding America's role in world affairs as old alliances fracture and new powers rise. Matt Bracken warns, if America doesn't step forward, other nations will. China and Russia already have Greenland in their sights. Greenland's people share historic roots with the West. American investment could boost their prosperity while ensuring their security in an uncertain world. Imagine new research outposts, scientific discovery, and eco-friendly innovation thriving where few have gone before. Yet the mere suggestion of purchasing Greenland has stirred debate and doubt, even ridicule. But true leadership means thinking far beyond today's headlines. Bracken calls on Americans to understand the stakes: control over minerals, military advantage, and a legacy of courage in shaping our nation's destiny.
All right, I was already telling the producers days ago, I want to get Matt Bracken on, former Navy SEAL, best-selling author, really knows his geopolitics, knows his counterterrorism, knows his New World Order. He's one of the smartest guys out there, and he's been very accurate. Been interviewing him for over a decade or longer. But I wanted to get him on about Somalia and what's happening here domestically and the deep state's next moves. I'm sure in the next hour he'll going to spend some time on that. But this morning he said, well, yeah, I'm on the fourth hour, but I want to talk about this. And I said, well, of course, talk about whatever you want. And I knew about this, but it was in the back of my memory. I was like, oh, my God, that's so smart. You heard Ezra Levant on, who first warned Trump, if you keep saying 51st state, you're going to get the globalists reelected. They're at 50% approval rating. Within a month, they were at 40% and won. You're like, well, how do they win at 40%? Because it's a parliament. They got a whole bunch of parties. And so he should have said, we're going to liberate Canada politically. We're going to make deals good for everybody. They got monopolies up there. They screw the consumers. He could have done it that way and supported the secessionist movements. And, you know, it takes time to carve off stuff, even if when we want to get Canada for the U.S. down the road. I mean, it was President Jackson at the Hermitage almost a decade before Texas independence that literally met with my mother's side of the family ancestors, and this has been released in the history books, and said, I want you to go with Protestants down there, and I want you to hand out the Bibles. We're going to launch a Protestant revolution. We know at a point that they're going to come in and try to suppress everybody, and we'll use that as a leverage point. You take it first, and then set up your own zone, and then we'll come in. And Jackson thought it would probably take 10 years. So that's long-term thinking. Yeah, I mean, the thing about, Santa Anna came and oppressed us, and we did this. Yeah, right. I mean, he was an oppressor, but we didn't just, it was cooked up. But it took 10 years, and a lot of people were willing to die. And they sent in the best they had. Davy Crockett and Sam Houston, all those guys. I mean, you're talking Conan the Barbarian for real with the case of Houston. Good God. They called him the Raven, the Native Americans, because he was like psychic and always knew what they were going to do. And it was written by in a French history book, they observed it, like where he killed 20 Indians himself. I mean, we're talking wild man. But the point is, I was up in Tennessee. The point is that's what Texas came out of was people like Houston, but the brain trust was Andrew Jackson. But at the end of the day, as long as it's an economic ally, that's what matters. It's under globalist Chi-Com UK control now. We don't want that on our doorstep. And more important than Venezuela is Canada. And more important than Greenland is Canada. So now if Trump's just, I'm going to take it, it's mine. You already have the Inuits. I showed you interviews that Nick Shirley did a few months ago when he went there. He's talking to the Inuits, who are more than half the 45,000 people that live there. And they're like, no, we want America. We want Trump. We don't want to have Denmark running us. Well, Trump, with this, I'm going to send the military in, just set himself up for real failure because it looks tyrannical. This is not Venezuela that's been stealing our elections or flooding us with drugs. So Bracken made the point that, and this is on record, Denmark has apologized for forcefully sterilizing half the women when they're like 10, 11, 13, putting IEDs in them that were designed to sterilize you. In many cases, them not even knowing, but forcing them to do it. Well, those women now are old women, and they're the biggest part of the population. Trump should talk about how Denmark did that and how we want to do a deal like Alaska has, where the citizens get part of the oil and gas revenue and come in and make it a protectorate, they would do it. The way Trump is doing this, I get, is to embarrass NATO, and he's mad about the Ukraine war, and he wants to put pressure on him. But it's a very base level trolling, and I want to get Matt Bracken's take on what he thinks Trump's doing versus his idea of making a big issue about, hey, Denmark sterilized you, America won't do that, and getting them signed up for a portion of their oil and gas money. I think that's the winning scenario. Matt Bracken of enemiesforeignanddomestic.com takes over now. Thank you, Matt Bracken.
Yeah, it's called the spiral case, the spiral IUD. It looks like a little snake, like a caduceus snake, and they can insert it in a straight little tube, okay, and then pull the tube out, and the thing spirals up in the girl's uterus. These girls were in classrooms, Danish classrooms, Inuit girls. They'd be called out to the clinic. Oh, Nancy, you got to go see the doctor. She has no idea what's going on, 13, 14 years old. Next thing you know, her feet are up in stirrups and she's being invaded. And something's put in her, she doesn't even know it. They did this from the 60s to the 90s. This was generations of Danish doctors and nurses did this without these girls' knowledge, permission, not their parents' knowledge or permission. It was a genocide. A lot of these girls, similar to what happened in some of the Canadian schools, in further back in the 19th century, early 20th century, with some of the Indian schools, they were trying to adopt them into Denmark to turn them into little Danes, so they'd be sent with a Danish family. But they all got these IUDs put in them. They didn't want any more of these.
And for those that don't know, not just to them, but a lot of these early IUDs, they knew would end up sterilizing the majority of women that got them. So they knew what they were doing. So it wasn't just against their will, violating the Nuremberg Code. It was also straight up sterilization. And so, like you said,
this is real Mangala stuff where you have doctors and nurses that are, it's not like it happened once under some rogue doctor and nurse. These people are assigned for a couple of years, like military, right? And they would be giving turnover to the next doctor and nurse and saying, yeah, this is what we do. We put the IUD in these girls, and nobody said.
Is even though you're supposed to get those out in a year, they still cause problems. They wouldn't even tell these women. I was reading articles. Women would find out 20 years later they had these.
They're not right, but imagine a nurse showing up and being briefed on this program and saying, that sounds fine with me, as long as I get my paycheck from the Danish government. This is real evil stuff, because it went on for decades. And that means doctor and nurse after doctor and nurse.
So Trump should say, Denmark raped you, we won't. We're going to get you oil and gas money as restitution.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple of reporters. I think Shirley was up there saying, would you vote for America for $100,000? I think you're exactly right. That's cheap. That's chump change. That's like handing. That's like in Trading Places, offering Eddie Murphy whiskey, cigars. That's chump change. That's wampum. Give them a piece of the action. Anything that comes out of here, 10, 20% is going to go into a fund. And some of the Gulf states also do this. It's how the ruling class in these Gulf states become popular, because their citizens actually get a cut. The taxes go the other way to the citizens.
And it's not a reparations. It's not 200 years later. It is restoration for living people.
That's right. And some of these women that had pain and medical problems, they finally go and get an X-ray and they find this thing in them in their middle age. And I mean, just imagine. And people say, well, Matt, what about the Tuskegee? The Tuskegee experiment is very misunderstood. Nobody was injected with syphilis, but they didn't treat them. They were used as a control group compared to, the treatments then were barbaric anyway. Like,
but it's still wrong, but this was even more premeditated. But listen, it's simple. Trump says, we will set it up where you get oil and gas money for restitution for being sterilized, and set up a national fund for your children, and you will be autonomous, but it'll be a protectorate. And then exactly, instead of ham-fistedly saying, I'm going to send the military in.
Right, and this is where you can offer a whole palette of options from potentially statehood, which is unlikely, but also a territorial, you've got territory like Puerto Rico status, Virgin Island status, Guam status, Saipan status. They have different degrees of autonomy. And, you may or may not be able to vote in American elections, things like that. But you will be able to travel to America. Americans can go there and work. It would absolutely boost their standard of living, modernize their fishing fleet, all of that. So yeah. But the main thing about this, it's not the rare earths. Rare earths under a mile of ice may or may not ever be a thing. Same thing with the oil. Oil at under $60 a gallon, or excuse me, a barrel. It's not even worth getting the oil out of Venezuela, right? Because it's just cost. Nobody's going to set up.
Yeah, Trump
new
told the
drilling
truth
rigs
there, but that we don't even need it, but it's strategic.
It's the location is strategic, and I sent a couple of polar maps over, and we are so used to seeing this stupid Mercator map where North America is in the middle of the square rectangular world map, and Greenland looks gigantic. If Americans started looking at the world and said, "Yeah, look at it this way," Canada, Alaska, Greenland is like across from Russia. These are sea routes. As it does melt, if it is melting some, these routes, like right above the word Canada, we have a route that goes, the Northwest
Well, it doesn't
Passage.
matter because of all the icebreakers it's open anyways.
And we don't have icebreakers. That's the thing. The Russians already have 8 nuclear icebreakers, and it matters that they're nuclear because they're never going to get stuck in the ice and run out of fuel, like the Franklin expedition. Right? You don't want to have a fuel-based icebreaker. If it gets stuck, who's going to bring it fuel, right? Nobody. So they're gigantic. They're twice as big as the ones we're going to have built. But what it points to is we are aiming towards a world that is divided into resource zones. The whole Pax Americana from the end of the Second World until recently is coming to an end. We're not only going to have economic influence spheres, we're actually going to fight for our zones. That's what Venezuela was about. We're going to kick the Chinese, the Russians, the Cubans out of South America if we can. Big stick policy.
What do you expect Trump to do at Davos? Already Ludwig and others flamethrowed him today and said, "You're tyrants, you're criminals." Even the Financial Times called Carney a globalist scumbag. I mean, they're falling apart.
I think it's great, but something you were talking about with Ezra Levant, which was a fabulous interview. I mean, the guy's awesome. Very brave also, because he's like behind he's behind the Iron Curtain there in Canada increasingly. Trump makes blunders, as you pointed out. Calling, we're going to make Canada the 51st state might have led to Carney being their leader. Probably did. But Trump at least is a bar fighter. If you have a choice between, a sissy pussy GOP elite establishment guy that's always measuring the outcomes. No, we can't. We don't want to stack the delegates in our state because it wouldn't be fair. We don't want to lower ourselves to fighting like the Democrats. Trump at least will walk into the bar and start throwing punches. And some of his punches will miss. And sometimes he'll embarrass you. But at least he's a fighter. And imagine who else we would have had. Mitt Romney or McCain, Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz. These guys, I disagree with a lot of Trump's positions. I wish we weren't so on the leash by Israel, trying to pick a war with Iran we don't need. That we need to focus at home. We've got an insurrection in Minnesota. Other ones could be spreading in Portland, in Canada, in Austin, Texas, where the Antifa is being emboldened. So we really need to focus at home. I think that Trump is afraid to call the Insurrection Act right now because he's like a showman, and right now the show is Davos. And he doesn't want to steal the thunder of Davos by declaring an Insurrection Act while he's on this world stage. So he's letting that simmer. But Minnesota is absolutely a red line for the federal government. If they can't get control of people that are going into churches or, beating people on the street, I go back to, well, I was only 5 years old, but in 1962, John F. Kennedy, who the Democrats and everybody loves now, he's practically a saint. He sent 31,000 troops to Oxford, Mississippi, because the frat boys were giving, black students a hard time. Nobody was beat up in church, beat up, dragged out of cars. Nobody was like blocking FBI cars, honking horns. Nobody was getting accosted on streets or dragged down the street, but they sent 31,000 soldiers in the whole 101st Airborne Division with guns all over the Ole Miss campus, tents, just dominated, more soldiers than students. That's how JFK said, you're going to desegregate, and you're not going to give us a hard time about it. That's over. No more Confederacy, no more, the federal government's in charge. If Trump doesn't get a hold of Minnesota, this is January, it's 18 degrees up there. What's going to happen when it's summertime up there if we don't get a hold of that? So I think we need to focus at home. Forget Iran forget it. I mean, we don't even know how much of that's AI generated, slop of all the morgue scenes. We don't know, but we're trying to let's not get distracted overseas when we've got an insurrection at home, and we could bring Greenland in, but it has to be done. It has to be sold as the Greenland Purchase. Everybody thinks the Alaska Purchase was one of the most brilliant moves ever. At the time, it was called, Seward's Folly, a few $1 million. We got Alaska from Russia. They were broke at the time. They sold it to us. We did the Gadsden Purchase. That was for gold. The Mexicans offered to throw in Baja California for a few more million in gold. And we said, no, thanks. But so we bought that, we had a war with them. Then we had a treaty. We bought it from them with gold. Hawaii, if anything, was a complete just theft. We basically just sent Marines to Hawaii and said, the Navy says we need these islands, we're taking it. And is anybody seriously saying, America should give Hawaii back to the Hawaiians, that we should just give it up as a state, let it be independent, let them bring the Chinese Navy in instead? Of course not. So I put in terms of strategic importance going forward, Greenland is just as important to us as Hawaii or as Cuba, Venezuela, that area, that part of our periphery, or Alaska. When you look at the polar maps, you really have to study the polar maps. Greenland is like super key terrain. Yeah, I love that map. If Russia, Canada, and America were ever on the same team, nobody in the world could touch us. We would be the league of our own. But instead, we've driven Russia and China together. That was the neocons, the whole Ukraine thing, that we imported this ancient blood feud. Michael Yon calls it Jurassic Trailer Park. All of these neocons from Eastern Europe, who have, they may not be particularly religious, but they do belong to one kind of a cultural religious grouping. They were booted out of Russia even before communism, or they left. They have this blood feud hard-on for Russia that has been dominating our foreign policy. We have, since World War II, America's prime, American diplomacy's prime order was, don't let Russia and China get together. And the neocons have done that. They have pushed China and Russia together. And if China and Russia become an economic bloc, which they are doing now, they won't need our sea lanes. They'll be able to just, gas, oil, products, everything, Russia to China. And that's why those Arctic sea routes on the top are so important. They've got 8 giant nuclear icebreakers. They're like 570 feet long and 112 feet wide, which means a giant tanker can just follow behind them. A really big tanker can follow behind them. The icebreakers that we don't even have that we're talking about building in Finland are half that size. So we're not even in the game. And the other important things up in the polar war, the polar struggle will be the submarines, and Russian nuclear submarines are made for operating under the ice. Ours can too, but not like the Russians. They are designed to go through ice and launch missiles, whatever they have to do, or follow these icebreakers stealthily, behind the icebreakers. But we are just coming to the grips with how important the polar region is going to be, and Greenland is like the keystone. It's like chips on a table waiting to be picked up. The Danes are what they had a claim because Vikings were there 1,000 years ago and their settlement died out. Then in the 1700s, they planted a flag and said, we plant a flag in this 1 kilometer, and the 1,000 kilometers north and south and east and west all belongs to us now because we said so. No economic development, no nothing. Just, hey, we planted a flag, it's ours. You look at little tiny Denmark, it's like 1% of the size of Greenland. And it's further from Denmark to the capital of Greenland than it is to Boston or New York. The capital of Greenland is actually closer to America and much closer to Canada than it is the little teeny Denmark. It's like the Grand Duchy of Denmark. I mean, they're going to control that. There's no way. We need to make a good offer to Greenland. Let them decide what kind of status they want. Do they want to be a territory? What are they? What degree of independence they want? Give them a great deal. Any resources brought out, it's going to be given to the people there. I think that Greenland can be gotten just like the Alaska Purchase, less violently than Hawaii, but we need to sell it the right way. And I think that the spiral IUD case and the offer of a resource sharing program, that's absolutely the way to do it. And I don't know. I wish that Trump was a little bit better at marketing. He has some smart people like Miller, but I don't know. Sometimes he gets ahead of himself with the braggadocio and the his vainglorious ways, and it doesn't work. Look at who's running Canada right now. It's not a good thing there. But if we are going to be splitting into different zones, Canada trying to be an ally with China, it's not going to work. I know that the Chinese have practically taken over Vancouver, but in the end of the day, Canada is going to be right between Alaska and American Greenland. So Canada is going to definitely be in our sphere of control, no matter what they think. It's how it's going to work. And we'll develop this theme a little bit more on the other side and talk about a few other things. I see the time is running out, but there we go. Okay. Yeah, we're definitely coming into a new world that is split into zones, and the globalists, they're done.
Let me tell you about the huge sale. This is a massive sale going on right now. We have an amazing group of deals right now at thealexjonestore.com. All t-shirts are 25% off, and there's not much markup in them, so that's huge. All hats are 20% off. Hoodies are 25% off. Widest selection you're going to find out there. Some of the best designs. Some absolutely terrible designs. I'm just joking, some of mine. Up to 45% off Life Force. That's Ultimate Life Force. That is the best spike protein detox pro cardiovascular system. Everybody should be on that. Atomic Defense, incredible immune booster. So good for your body. Everybody should be on that. That's 45% off right now. Up to 40% off bovine colostrum, sea moss capsules and gummies, the Irish sea moss, the turmeric, strongest out there, ultimate turmeric, ultimate burn, a natural fat burn, also great for your metabolism. Up to 35% off ultramethylene blue capsules and tincture, Shilajit gummies and capsules, Ultra DNA Revival, that's the same as, or similar to DNA Force, Power Plant, Methyl Drive, MK Ultra, those are all incredible products. And ultramethylene red, proprietary, over the top. Stacks well with methylene blue, but by itself, incredible clarity, focus, energy with no letdown. And our exclusive methylene red is back in stock at thealexjonesstore.com. And if you're going to buy anything there in your profile, become a VIP for $30 a month, cancel anytime for free. You instantly get $40 to spend, special deals, special offers, special sales on everything. So if you're going to buy anything, be a VIP. And I thank you for your support.
Yeah, I've got a few more things that I thought of going back to the Ezra Levant part. There's a book that should be on everybody's bookshelf. You can get it off of, Amazon used marketplace for $3 or something. It's called The 9 Nations of North America by Joel Garreau, like EAU at the end. That was written in 1981, and it shows North America from, Mexico to the tundra, how it really would be split up if it was the economy and the people. And Montana and Alberta are like the same thing. And that's kind of how that's the world we're morphing into. And this book is a total classic, and the guy really had a fantastic ability to look into the future, because it's breaking greatly along the lines that he predicted, almost 50 years ago. Then the history of America is a history of, let's face it, we started with the 13 colonies, and the Indians didn't hand them over to us, the 13 colonies. We did a lot of pretty brutal things along the way. Andrew Jackson had the Trail of Tears, where the Cherokees were pushed out of the Southeast. We had, not so well known, the Choctaw Wars in Alabama and Mississippi. These were not exactly friendly skirmishes either. We were fighting for the land, and it was a bloody fight, not by standing army, basically by volunteer militias that were called up for a matter of months. That's the way we rolled then, not even in uniforms really. And these were brutal wars to take the Alabama, Mississippi area, Tennessee, of course, with what's his name, Davy Crockett, who then goes to the Alamo. As Alex was saying, the conquest of the Southwest, that was a long process. That didn't happen overnight, and it wasn't just because of a bad move by Santa Anna or anything else. It was in the works a long way. And you had the Louisiana Purchase. That's even earlier. That was Thomas Jefferson. So Napoleon was broke over in fighting in Europe. He needed the gold. That was, that's how wealth was actually transferred. It was like chests of physical gold. He needed the gold. We sent him some gold. We got the entire Louisiana Purchase, which more than doubled the size of the United States. We had a quasi-war with Great Britain over where the border would be between Canada and Washington State. We have been fighting for this territory for a long, long time. And imagine today if we didn't have Hawaii. Let's say Hawaii, we were a bunch of very neutral, libertarian, airy-fairy types 100 years ago. There would be a Chinese Navy in Hawaii. It wouldn't be vacant. Same thing with Alaska. Imagine if we had not picked up Alaska, if Russia owned Alaska as well as all of Siberia and the rest of what it owns. It would be like in our backyard. At least we have a Bering Sea between us and Russia, because our forefathers had the foresight to purchase that. I just wish that Trump would package Greenland better as the Greenland Purchase. And it's like a perfect symmetry, really. When you look at the map of northern Canada, you've got Alaska on the west shoulder and Greenland on the right shoulder. And as the world splits into not only spheres of economic influence, but physical spheres of control. I mean, control. We're not going to let the silver go from Mexico and Peru to China. China is not exporting any of its silver into the world. The world is splitting into zones of what you can physically control. So these choke points are going to matter. And for example, Japan's bond market is collapsing. We're their ally. The contagion could spread to this country. We could be seeing a slow motion economic domino effect collapse, beginning maybe with Japan. What can we do about it? Japan is effectively out of our reach now. So same thing with South Korea, same thing with Taiwan. Our Navy can function in peacetime for showing the flag. Once in a while, we'll dash through the Taiwan Straits. But nobody is thinking realistically that if China blockaded Taiwan, we could go in and break the blockade. I don't think China will, do a D-Day landing in Taiwan anytime soon, but they can certainly blockade it. And these are nations, Korea, is particularly Japan and Taiwan. They import half of their food. They will starve if the ships stop coming. So right now, those are inside of China's sphere of control. That's why we're moving against countries like Venezuela, going to move against Mexico, trying to nail down Greenland, trying to exert control in Canada, even though that backfired, calling it the 51st state. So yeah, we are dividing the world up like on that risk board, and the 75 years or so of the American Navy keeping the sea lines of lanes of communication open around the world, that's coming to an end. I think that one of the big lessons was the Red Sea being closed effectively by the Houthis that don't even have a navy firing missiles at our ships. So we're now going back maybe more than 100 years to the control zones. What can your Navy actually physically control? We can't save Japan. We can't save Taiwan. If Japan, in the midst of its collapsing economy, thinks that it's going to build up a new Navy like it's the 1930s going into World War II, they won't be able to, because China can just turn on and turn off their supply of iron and everything that they would need to build a Navy. Japan is now, for good or for ill, same thing with Korea, it's falling under China's shadow. That's just a fact. Our Navy can go over there and visit right now, but if China really wants to push us around in that area, they can, because our ships can't get close enough to help Japan or Taiwan before we'd be just salvoed by Chinese missiles. And pretty much the same thing with China trying to exert control over its long-term contracts for silver and other minerals coming out of Mexico and Peru. If we just say, no, we're going to put sanctions on those ships, we're going to call those Chinese ships part of an illegal shadow fleet. We don't recognize those contracts. The whole idea of contract law, when it comes to the maritime law, I think it's coming to an end. We're seeing that with America unilaterally declaring certain ships to be sanctioned. Sanctioned by who? The UN? No, us. So we get a judge that says, yes, that's an illegal ship. Then we send the Coast Guard and board it. Well, you think that the rest of the world isn't paying attention, that they're not going to respond in kind? Of course they are. We blew up the Nord Stream pipeline to split Germany and Europe off from cheap Russian gas. Nobody's fooled by that. We can deny it. It's not even plausible deniability. Our Navy did that. We did it. And we've also attacked Russian ships, 2 of them in the Mediterranean, many more in the Black Sea. We're going to keep seeing this. This is like a basketball game with a lot of elbows coming out now. This is not the sissy version of basketball. This is this is where you get a concussion. Because Russia has a lot of advantages. They're like the storehouse of natural wealth for the world. And they share a border with China. As long as they can maintain friendly relations, they'll both be massively benefiting. But Russia has some weaknesses too. I mean, just geographically, they don't have access to the ocean. They can only get to the ocean through the Black Sea to the Mediterranean, or through Murmansk up around Norway, and then down through the Greenland, Iceland, UK gap. or out from Vladivostok. And even Vladivostok is semi-trapped behind, islands that are completely patrolled by our submarines. Russia doesn't have all aces in their deck, but we are now coming to the point where our Navy can't just go around the world doing whatever it wants to anybody it wants. People learn from the Yemen experience. We run out of missiles real fast. We can slap countries like Syria or Libya around, but if a country in a choke point wants to throw missiles at our ships, we run out fast, and the math doesn't work. They throw a $20,000 missile at our ship. We fire $4 or $5 million worth of missiles to shoot it down, and in 30 missiles, we're out of missiles. The ship has to leave. And meanwhile, Yemen's just bringing up more trucks with more missiles. So yeah, we're no longer in this world where America can dominate the globe. So I think Trump is on the right track in splitting the world into what can we actually control. And that's where we're going to have to be a little bit more diplomatic with Canada, a little smarter how we deal with them, turn Greenland into the Greenland Purchase, not we're going to invade it. The Chinese now are talking to the Europeans. Who cares? The Chinese, what can they do with Europe? Europe is a lost cause. Demographically, they are not reproducing. They allowed in millions of fighting age Mohammedans, Muslim men that are going to rise up if there's ever any serious right-wing party that tries to deport them. They're going to find out that they're all armed suddenly, and it'll be a bloody civil war. So as far as I'm concerned, and Trump has as much as said it, and so has Vance, Europe's a write-off. Europe will be lucky to be a theme park. Come and see some pretty castles, but they can't produce cars. They don't make any energy on their own. So Europe is screwed. And this is one thing that kind of connects to the next book I'm writing, which is on Ireland. If Ireland sticks with the EU, which it probably will, Ireland has a pretty serious inferiority complex when it comes to how it sees itself in the greater European picture. It definitely sees itself as, the little poor cousin of countries like Germany, the UK, France. So they are thrilled to be in the EU. But the EU for Ireland is a suicide pact, because it doesn't matter economically if they benefit in some small way if every year hundreds of thousands of more migrants are pouring into Ireland and they can't stop it. Because anybody that makes it to France can get on a rubber boat, then they're in the UK, then they catch a ferry over to Northern Ireland, and they catch a bus to Dublin. There's absolutely no way to stop that flow as long as they're in the EU. So as Europe either slides into a depression or a civil war, or even a religious civil war, a religious ethnic civil war, Ireland may be America's ace in the hole, because Ireland has very strong ties to America because of the Irish famine diaspora. So there are a lot of Americans that look at Ireland and wonder what the hell is going on. Well, Ireland has a couple of unique advantages. If the UK completely is torn apart in a civil war, I mean, the other day we're seeing thousands of men dressed like ISIS marching in a UK city. I forgot the city, but when they're marching, when you see 1,000 Muslims marching in black, that's a pre-Civil War demonstration. This is what you do before Yugoslavia breaks up. You decide, we're going to have a little marching club, and we're all going to wear the same kind of camouflage. No guns yet, but we're organizing into platoons, companies, battalions, and we're demonstrating to the locals, don't mess with us, because we can put 1,000 men on the street. Can you Brits do that? Hell no. Plus the police are on our side. So we are watching Europe in its death throes collapsing, as far as I'm concerned. demographically, they don't have a chance. Already in Germany and other countries, half of the children or more in school are Muslims. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to work out the math, how that goes. If half of the boys under 20 are already Muslims, you're screwed. So whenever you hear people say, oh, don't worry, in Minneapolis or here or there, they're only 10%, they're only 20%. Yeah, but their women are having 5 kids and yours are having 1.1. You work that out in 20 years, you're done. So Europe, I think, is at best going to face a terrible civil war and economic collapse. They don't have any energy. And then what happens? Maybe Ireland gets peeled away. It's something that most people would never have a reason to think about, but say, what are the biggest rivers in the British Isles if you also count Ireland? Well, maybe it's the Thames in England. No, it's the Shannon River, which faces the open Atlantic to the west. It's the biggest river in the British Isles. It has major ports. It has the biggest airport in Ireland in terms of the runway. It's always been like a strategic military runway for the U.S. when we're like doing big logistical pushes like Desert Storm. So Shannon Airport, right next to the city of Limerick, on the Shannon River, you've got a port. You've got fuel facilities where the big super tankers come in with oil. You've got wind farms. You have natural gas. That's all in the west of Ireland. At a certain point, as the UK falls to the caliphate or to a civil war, Ireland could be the eastern anchor of our island chain. We'll have, Canada. Hopefully, we get on better terms with Canada, Greenland, Iceland, Ireland, and the rest of Europe. God help them, because the women are either going to be wearing burqas or it's going to be a civil war. That's it. I mean, there's no party in Europe at this point which can be elected and begin mass deportation. The Muslims will not allow it. At that point, it'll be discovered that, gosh, they have all these guns. We didn't know it. So they won't just be marching. They'll be marching with guns. And that's coming in Europe. I'm sorry, I don't see any other way around it. Now, something else I want to touch on today. Been watching, I've been a gold and silver bug for many, many years. I was buying silver when it was under $10 an ounce. Now it's in the mid 90s today. And I want to mention to people that haven't begun stacking, that it's like a parallel term to prepping now, stacking. If you think $90 is too much to spend for an ounce of silver, I think it's short-sighted. You're going to look back when it's $200 and say, why didn't I buy silver when it was under 100? This is only going one way. This is not like a stock bubble. This is not like a tech bubble. This is a complete reorganization of the global financial system. The fiat paper currency era is imploding. It's coming to an end. The father of this John Maynard Keynes, he was a childless gay man who made commodities trades in his bathrobe, supposedly, and he's the father of this modern monetary theory. And when he was asked, how long can you do this? I mean, at a certain point, this Ponzi scheme has to blow up. How long can it last? He said, in the long run, we're all dead. Meaning, I won't see it. I don't have any children. It'll be great during my lifetime and maybe for a few generations after that. Well, eventually, every Ponzi scheme has to blow up. And we're on the verge of seeing that happen. And I've got a few I made a new little demo here. Why is the middle class so broke? Why can't young couples afford a house? What happened? It's so popular, it's common to blame the boomers, as if like the boomers stole all the money and didn't leave anything for the Zoomers, for Gen Z. It's all the boomers' fault. Yeah, I was born in 1957. in that era, we were paid with real money. They couldn't just print an unlimited amount, which they began to do in the 60s to fund under LBJ, was called guns and butter. We're going to spend billions we don't have in Vietnam, and we're going to spend billions we don't have on the Great Society program, putting it into the ghettos. All of that money was created out of thin air. Until 1964, Americans were paid with real money. It couldn't be printed. You can't print silver. Even if you had a dollar bill, it said on it, silver certificate. You could take it to the bank and say, you know what, I just as soon have a silver dollar handed over as the paper. If you like carrying paper in your wallet, you could, but you could go to the bank and say, I'll take mine in silver. So in 1964, this was the minimum wage, all right? The minimum wage was $1.25. Those coins today are worth $85. But the minimum wage is only $7.25. So if the silver that a man was paid as the minimum wage in 1964, if that's now worth $85, why isn't the minimum wage $85? The difference between $85 and $7.25 is the planned inflation which happened. That was a theft from the middle class. Our money was diluted and our wealth was stolen by inflation. It's not like the weather. It's not just something that happens, like a natural effect, like the temperature rising. This was a wealth transfer. The bankers, the Fed, and the bankers, they print the money. Their friends get the money. The hedge funds, Goldman Sachs, they get the money. They then buy up everything with the money before it's inflated. Our money in the bank is worth less every generation, and now a young couple can't afford a house. In the 50s, one salary was enough to buy a house. The wife could stay home and raise the kids. They could have a car, go on vacation on one salary. And that's gone. That was stolen. That was our birthright that was stolen. We're coming to the end of that cycle now, where we're going to eventually have a financial collapse, and this will be money again. And I do recommend silver because this little gold coin over here is worth so much. It's like $464. You can't buy groceries with a $464 gold dime. You're going to need silver. All right, I see we're running out of time. I always forget to plug my own books. I do sell these still. It's, my main mission in life are getting these message books out. And if you go online, you can get them from Amazon, but I get almost zero from Amazon. If you buy them from me through my website using PayPal or cash or checks, I'll even sign them. And then you won't be giving most of your money to Jeff Bezos. But if you want them on Audible or Kindle, you have to go to Amazon. And I'll sell them cheap. When the more books that you buy at a time, the better it is, because postage goes down rapidly with larger boxes. Selling onesie twosies is cost you more and cost me more in printing or in postage. But anyway, I would strongly suggest it's not too late to start buying silver. It's really, you're not buying silver, you're exchanging a currency which is becoming worth less every week for a currency which will hold its value. And I mean, I wish that I had bought more, but I'm still going to buy even at $90. Anyway, thanks to Alex for the opportunity. And I'll see you the next time that I'm invited on the show. And that's all I've got for today. Bye-bye.
They looked at